Hello, 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 and welcome to Unique Leaders Podcast. And I'd like you to meet my dear friend, Nick Austin. Hello, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good today. I'm very good. I'm so pleased that you're here with me. I'm here in the boutique of the Novitas Spa and very excited to share your story, the truly a unique leader in everything you do. Nick is here in Nick Austin and her husband, Rick, live here in Georgetown. And I met Nick this year, or the end of last year, I should say. And she's just a unique person, as well as a wonderful person and a wonderful visionary. And I want to share a little bit about Nick before I ask her to share her story. But Nick is a photographer, and she has traveled the world with her husband, and she'll share their story, their love story. And they ended up here in Georgetown. And I observed Nick through Facebook when she had a fundraising gala for her nonprofit, We Are Not Broken. And I was like, wow, I need to know this person. So I reached out to Nick on Facebook and just said, I would love to know about you and what you're doing. I would love to assist or, support your nonprofit and everything that you're doing because your heart is amazing. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to share a little bit from my perspective about Nick, because to me, what I do is about connecting people. And I'm not just talking about this podcast, but also my career with skincare products and this spa and educating and training and mentoring. It really is about connecting people and helping people just, go on to whatever platform I can help you with. So with that said, Nick, why don't you share a little bit with our guests, because this does reach people all over the United States. And they, basically are from, different groups that I'm in, have been in over the years in business and personal. So this is reaching people beyond Georgetown. And so I'd like you to share a little bit about your background, because you're an international gal. You were, born in England and go on from there.
Yeah, I was born and raised in England, went to school in England, went to college in England, and from there, actually went to performing arts college. I left school. I've danced my whole life. I've been a professional dancer since I was 9 years old, which is when I got my first paycheck, which actually I bought a camera with, but yeah, which is funny. And just started traveling the world as a professional dancer, professional ballet, tap, jazz dancer. Ended up in South Korea, where I met the love of my life 30 years ago. He was stationed there with the US Army. That was his first station right out of basic training. Met him, and I just knew I was going to marry him. First Americans I'd ever really heard talk, other than on the TV, which is really funny to actually hear it in person. And then, I went back to England, back to, my contract had ended, went back to England. He got stationed at West Point, New York. He sent me a ticket to go see him. I went to see him, and then he came to England, proposed, then he left, then he came back and we got married, then he left again. And by the time we got all the immigration paperwork done, I met him in New York. And yeah, that's a love story, 30 years in the making. And he's my best friend. We have 3 amazing kids. I mean, they're not kids. 2 of them one's 28, one's 24. We're about to be grandparents, and one's 11. So yeah, a beautiful family. I love my family.
You need to, if you aren't following Nick Austin on Facebook, you need to, because not only does she share about things we're going to be talking about today, but you'll never know what entertainment she and her husband and family will do.
This is true.
Right? Last Journey's, song, it just, it was a couple Saturday nights ago. I was just, ready to call it a day. And there were Nick and her husband, Rick, just entertaining, just, as you said with the first one, when we first went into this quarantine, it was boredom that drove you to entertain the masses, right? Yes.
I mean, if I can make somebody smile even from my laptop, I'm gonna do it. That's just who I am inherently, just to make people smile and be kind.
And to be kind, and that is what the fiber of your being that so attracted me to you. So now you and Rick married and had two children, and then your daughter came a little later.
Yeah.
But where did you first? Was he still in the service at that time?
When our daughter came.
No, when you first married and had your two sons.
Yes, we were in the military the whole time. I mean, he just retired in 2014. So he did 26 years in the Army. He did 26 years. He was a nurse and drill sergeant. And then he ended up becoming a Black Hawk pilot and flew Special Forces for quite a while. And then we opened a gym. We actually opened a gym in Louisiana, CrossFit gym. It's the only gym for 60 miles. So we were very popular. It was a very, very big operation that me and him ran. And because we were strength and conditioning coaches for so long together, and that grew so big. We had like almost 250 members, and we were doing so many different programs that he's like, okay, maybe it's time for me to retire because this is really huge. And we did. And then, we stayed there for a while, but we always knew we wanted to come here because about 16 years ago, he came here with the Army to do degree completion. He was finishing up his degree at Concordia University. Oh. So we just fell in love with Texas and ended up, we sold the gym. We were like, okay, it's time now to go back to Texas. We ran it for like three years, sold it. It's still operational today, which is really a great success story. Mm-hmm. And we came here and we just hit the ground running.
Yeah. And what year was that when you moved to Georgetown?
2015. We actually moved to Round Rock, built a house in Round Rock, and ended up being there for a little while. And we actually just moved to the heart of Georgetown in September of last year. We bought a house right in Georgetown. Love it. Yeah.
And so when, so he was at Concordia, so that's in Austin area. So he knew this area, so decided to move just because Texas is pretty big. And so it was this area specifically that you both fell in love with.
He's from Chicago and I'm obviously from England. And we knew neither one of us were going back to our own places where we grew up. And we both together loved it here. So this was it.
Yeah. This is it. This is home. Yeah. So you, as I mentioned in the introduction, that you're you're obviously artistic. You were a dancer for years since you were 9, your first paycheck, and got your camera. So you said something very strategic there. You bought your first camera. So when I was introduced to you in general, knowing that you were a professional photographer. So share a little bit about that. So at 9, how did you know that that was going to be one of your artistic courses, meaning photography?
I really didn't know. It's funny because the Lord really just brought that back to my memory just in the past year. Mm-hmm. I've always been artistic. I've always been, creating. That's just, that's me, So with my first paycheck, I wanted to buy a camera. So I bought a camera. I didn't think nothing else about it. Ended up going to performing arts college. I always wanted to go to art college. I got accepted to art college, which would in turn help me, cultivate that passion for photography. But it was either art college or performing arts college. And because I think my mom always wanted to be a dancer, she wanted her daughter to go that route. And I love dancing, don't get me wrong, but they were like, we're paying for you. We're going to pay for you to go to performing arts college because it was a boarding college. So I had to live at the college. Mm-hmm. It's a lot different than college here. So I ended up going that route and that's how I met Rick. And then, I'm like, okay, I can't really continue that life if I want to get married and start a family because that's a contractual lifestyle. You do 8 to 10 months contracts at different countries, different venues. So I was like, how can I still, with my love of dance, turn that into still the body movement? So that's how I ended up watching, getting every single certification, qualification you can think, going to advanced level, everything. I wanted to be the best at it. I wanted to give the best of me to somebody who was going to hire me. And did that for 23 years, and then just retired about 2 years ago and picked up my first love, which was photography. And along the lines of being a military spouse, I had qualified for a Pell Grant because we were poor in the military. We were a poor family, and I got all this college money for free on Pell Grant. So I'm like, I'm taking photography classes. But it was back when it was dark room and it was older kind of technology. When I decided to, retire from fitness and go back to picking up my first love, Rick bought me a beautiful camera, and that was it. That just sparked something within me, and I think that just awoke my calling. That was like, okay, now is time, because I was really searching. What am I going to do going into my 50s with the rest of my life? I want to know. I don't want to make money. Money's good, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to make a difference. I've made lots of money over the course of being an entrepreneur and businesses, but this time I wanted to make a difference. And I knew through photography I could do that, because I was volunteering at my church on the photography dream team, and I loved it. I loved capturing people in their moments of vulnerability, in their moments of, sadness, happiness, joy. I just loved that. So, I was just, praying, what do you want me to do? And it just organically flowed to photography for me. And this past year, it was like, I'm always seeking and searching and asking God, to put me in the presence of women I can make a difference with girls I can make a difference with. And he just brings these memories back. You know what I mean? Oh, I was setting you up for that when you were 9. I was setting you up for your calling when you were 9 years old, So it's just been an amazing journey, and I'm still on it, and I love every minute of it.
So before we go to We're Not Broken, I want to stay a minute with what you just said, because there were so many amazing nuggets there that I want to really explore. And one was what you just said about your first love. You've said that several times, and also that you're a creative. So you basically, in your spirit, have always known that was your calling. Yes. Also, though, with your husband, an entrepreneur, and put a very viable, very successful business together. And obviously you pulled from your creative for that too. And your dance, which was part of, the strength training, which you had to do as a dancer. But I want to share a quote with you, and I want you to listen to this and then share about how it resonates with you, okay? I read this about a week ago, and it just really resonated with me. She's a dreamer. She's a thinker. She's a doer. She sees possibilities everywhere. And, we both, and all of us who have been entrepreneurs and creators, we all know and have heard through, Napoleon Hill and others, that it all begins with an idea.
Yeah.
It all begins with that idea. Yes. But when you hear the word dreamer and doer, how would you connect the dots with those two?
So just not to get off that, because I love what you've just said, but I don't know if you remember this. I had invited you to go to church with me, and you already knew the pastors and you wanted to go talk to them. And do you remember what Pastor Joe said to you? He said, and you said, this is Nick. And he's like, oh, I know Nick. She's a world changer. So for me, dreamer and doer are great, but I want to be a world changer. And that's where I want to be. I want to change the lives of women and girls for the better. I love doer, I love dreamer, but dreamer for me is this. And not doing anything. So I have this huge, I tell people all the time, it never shuts up here, ever. It's constantly going. So for me, when he spoke that, because I take what my pastors say very seriously, and when he spoke that, she's a world changer. Oh, yes, she's a world changer.
Yes, because that's an affirmation. That's an affirmation of who you are.
Yeah.
So yes. And but I want to stay. I couldn't agree more, because we're going to go into a world changer. But there's so many young ladies and women and men that are watching this, and not just because there's a pause in our world at this moment, but there's things coming through that, and we're also coming out of that. But what I want to accomplish with this Unique Leaders podcast is to help people understand that it's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams.
So true. So true. I mean, listen, dream your dreams 100%. Just don't stay there. Don't stay dreaming.
Right.
Now do, right?
Now do. Right.
Possibilities that you can create are endless. They're just endless. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that where I dreamt and what I dreamt can be real, and I need to step out in faith to make that happen. Because everything we do, I believe, is 100% a step of faith. Everything. You know, you can't even get in your car without, I mean, people, they don't realize the faith it takes to get in a vehicle and get on 35, right? I mean, that's crazy.
True.
So
that's right, because the opposite of faith, meaning the emotion, is fear. And why I've read somewhere just recently, because so many people are in fear right now, and someone said, well, how could you even get in your car? What the analogy that you just made, meaning you're walking out in faith. And so you have to continue to walk in faith. Yes. So coupled with your creative DNA and your life experience and background with everything you've just shared, and now you're in Georgetown, Texas, and share with our guests about the beginnings and the genesis of We Are Not Broken. How did that evolve into your life from everything that you've already shared?
Yeah, so again, searching, seeking, you know, just continually stepping out. What is my calling? I was like, it was like, you know, when you're thirsty and you can't drink enough and you're just drinking and drinking and drinking. That was what my searching was. That's what it was like for me. It was like I was drinking and I wanted to drink through this fire hose. You know, some people say it's like drinking through a fire hose, you can't take it. I wanted that fire hose because I wanted to know what it was. I didn't want to waste time. We don't have time. We have right now. So for me, it was like, I got to know, Lord, what is it? What is it? And whatever it is, I'll get up every morning and I'll just keep asking you, and I'll keep pestering you, and I'll keep, you know. So my friend who came into town, and I knew it had to be in photography, but my friend had come into town and I knew she had just buried her mother, cancer. I knew she had had a double mastectomy, full hysterectomy. Very young, beautiful, beautiful friend of mine. And I knew she had scars. I knew what it had done to her body. It had ravished her body because I was her trainer. So I'd seen her before, I'd seen her through the training, and then I'd seen her after this. So when I knew she was in Texas and she contacted me, she came and spent the night. We said, let's do a photography shoot. I had a little makeshift studio in my house, and we took pictures, and the pictures were, you know, they're pictures that everybody needs to see, because people don't look at scars as beautiful. They don't see behind the physicality of the scars of what that person has endured to still be here. And if we could grasp that in just a tiny form, if we could just grasp the struggle, the fight to stay alive, to be here, to be present, oh my goodness, the beauty in that, it would just change the societal norms. It would change the narrative. The Photoshop, I mean, who needs all that? Really, you know, it's let's just honor this strength. So I had put the call out. Anybody wants me to take pictures of this is what it looks like, and I believe it's beautiful. You want me to take pictures of your stretch marks, your cell, I don't care what it is. If you feel less than as a woman because somebody else has made you feel that way, And now you've internalized that. You now carry that as baggage that you shouldn't really carry. I want to take your picture. And literally the next day, inbox was full. I sat down and I heard God clearly say to me, this is what I want you to do. After all the months of pestering, this is what I want you to do. And I want you to call it We Are Not Broken. It's God, like, it was that clear to me. I fell to my knees. I cried. I think I cried solid for 6 months, because from every step, never done a nonprofit before, sat and did that. Took 21 days to get the IRS approval tax exemption. 21 days. That never happens. You know, got approved. Nobody had the name We Are Not Broken. The response was overwhelming. I mean, in just a year, I have over 3,000 people from all over America following the page. This tells me this is what's needed right now for women and girls to look at themselves as, yes, I'm beautiful.
I just want to stop you for 1 second, because before you go on to the next phase of that, some of our guests, and I don't know if Lisa Copeland is still on, but I've wanted to connect the dots with the two of you because of your van, and we'll go into all of that in a minute. But Lisa Copeland has a Wednesday at 2:00 Central with Sharon Lechter, going over a book study of Outwitting the Devil. And they just spoke today about what you just said about challenges in our lives and how we turn them into, triumphs.
Yeah.
And that it's not being pulled down by those experiences and circumstances and situations, but turning them into triumphs that the Lord has allowed to happen in our lives, that we use for others, as you said, Miss World Changer. But I just want to also share that Al Alvarez and Beverly Chody and Rocio, hello, Miss Rocio Palayo, and Chad Shields and Gigi Spencer, so good to have you, my love, and Violet Canna and Jody Garcia, hello, Jody. She's a local gal, I'm sure you know Jody, and Val Olives and Estefania. Hello, Mrs. Stefania. Thank you for joining us, guys. But Lisa, if you're still on, you both, and you need to connect, because you both are world changers. So you've had that epiphany. Yeah. You had that, as I call, God moved the furniture.
Yes.
You had that directive. And so with that, what was your next step?
My next step was, once everything was legal and the paperwork was done, my next step was like, okay, Lord, people are not going to come to my apartment bedroom and take pictures. I'm a stranger to people. I want to have a place that's safe, that they feel safe, telling their story. I had no idea how I was going to make this happen. I did not have the money to make it happen. And I was not going to ask my husband, after retiring, to fund another one of, which he would have in a second. But I'm like, I know for a fact, if God gave me this vision, God told me to do it, he's going to provide everything. All I've got to do is keep stepping, just keep stepping. So what I did is I stepped, and I'm like, I need to be on the square in Georgetown. And I didn't know much about the square. I wasn't even living here. But I knew I needed to be on the square. So what I did is I reached out to, I have a British group of friends that we all get together and try to get together once a month, and all British people. And one of them is my dear friend who owns all things kids, Karen. And Karen actually said, we had gone to dinner, and Karen said, hey, Nick, so I know this guy and there's a place. So I ended up reaching out to him. I rented his place for like 1 month. It was literally 1 month. And the reason it was 1 month is because We Are Not Broken grew so big, so quick, that the space was too small. The space was literally too small to do the mission that I had to do. So I had another set of friends who just bought like a $3 million property in Round Rock. They said, you can have anything you want here and just pay whatever you were paying there, which was next to nothing. Right. And then moved to Round Rock. And then I'm like, the Lord just kept saying, it's Georgetown. It's Georgetown. So at that point, I'm like, I've got to be back on the square. And again, my friend Karen connected me with Chris Damon. And I rented a space. I have a beautiful studio right above Gumbo's, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's how I ended up right here on the square. So.
And so you, last year when I saw that on Facebook, you had your annual gala, or the first gala. And, you know, one of the things that I love about her story is it is like, again, we talked about possibilities, and those possibilities are endless, but you have to listen. You have to get out of your own way and listen. Because how many times have you had an idea? I don't mean you, Nick, but anyone, including you and myself, but that you stop in your tracks. It's too big. It's too, you know, audacious. How am I going to start? Where am I going to get the funds? Here now, you have found this beautiful space in the building with Gumbo's that Chris Damon owns. And I've been in the studio, and the lighting is just absolutely wonderful for photography. But then you have this gala, and share with our guests how then the proceeds from that paid for that space.
Yes. So listen, I'm not an event planner, but between me and Amanda, who is, she volunteers and does all the hair and makeup. This woman is truly an angel sent from God. But between me and her, we put on this gala, 1920s gala. Never done it before. I think we had literally maybe 60 days and planned it. We put it on at the Georgetown Event Center, the Chamber of Commerce. And I will tell you, that night, it was literally standing room only. But I'll also tell you that most of those tickets I give away, because I'm like, I got the best advice from somebody, and she said, Nick, nobody knows what you're doing. She said, you need to get people in the door. Get them in the door. Get them in the door free if you have to. Give your tickets away. She said, because once they hear this mission, they are going to support you. So I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, I don't know. I got to raise money, but I'm going to do it. Step of faith. Again, gave a lot of these tickets away. In doing that, that paid for my rent all the way through, almost all the way through. And it's again, it's faith. It's God said he gave me the mission. I don't worry about that stuff because it's not my organization. It's not my nonprofit. It is for him. So,
you know, I always say you know, take that first step. Take that first step, and the second and third step will be revealed to you. That's Psalm 37. And it is about, but faith. Faith is things hoped for with evidence not yet seen. So, you know, faith is an action. You have to take that action and just keep on stepping, and the rest will be revealed to you. And those endless possibilities that just are there for you. So you now have your beautiful studio and a place to photograph individuals, but that's Georgetown. So then you had this vision about your camper. So share about that.
I did, and that was very early on. I ended up having this vision of, and everything I know comes from God. It's like, we're going to take this across the country. We're going to take this across the country. I'm like, well, how are we going to do that, God? You know, I have these conversations with him. And camper. So I literally, I wish I had it here. I drew a pencil drawing of a camper. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to put it out there on Facebook. Anybody got a camper, they're sitting on their driveway and they need to get rid of it and they would like a tax receipt for it because I'm a nonprofit. I can give you that. And anyway, literally, I believe it was that night, one of my Jeep friends, because I have a Jeep and I'm in a Jeep club, which, let me just say, the Jeep community are one of my biggest supporters. I love them to death. But he came forward and he's like, Nick, I got a Jeep, I got a camper and it's yours if you want it. And he sent me pictures of it. And I will tell you, I literally fell to the floor, broken, because this camper was yellow and white, the exact same color as my logo. Yellow and white. I was floored, and it was just amazing. And for the past year, it's just sat. It is just sat in storage. I've tried to get funding. I've tried, but it wasn't time. But April the 11th was the 1 year anniversary of getting that camper and putting that vision out. And that day, and I haven't really shared this with anybody, but that day, April 11th this year, I woke up and on my Facebook timeline, it said, oh, look, 1 year ago today, you put out this you put out this post about this camper and you got it. Literally that afternoon, I got a message from Kimberly Wolf, who connected me with Kylie and her husband, who they do renovations that are amazing. And it was that day, they said, we will take your camper and we will do it. Again, fell to my knees crying that day. Because I woke up and I saw that and I'm like, okay, Lord, do you want me to keep storing it for another year? Because I'm not paying for that out of nonprofit funds because I really don't get a lot of donations. So I'm paying for that out of my own pocket to store it, which is not a big deal. But I'm like, do you want me to keep doing it, Lord? Do you want me to keep storing it? I'll do it, you know. So it was a very much a God moment for that camper.
So what you're saying is, I did not know this. So what you're saying is that these folks are now donating to help, to not just help, but to restore the camper to what you need.
Yes, they're
on the road.
They're going to turn that camper into a mobile photography unit.
Okay.
They're going to get as much donated as they can. Robert's Print Shop is going to be donating the whole wrap. Georgetown Fencing Company is donating the lumber. So they're going to get as much donated as they can, and they've cut their fee in half for labor. I mean, you can't ask for anything, you know, more than that.
Oh, goodness.
It will be a mobile photography unit, and I cannot wait to see it because there's women that just are not ready to come to the studio. They're not ready to tell that story or share their scars yet. But maybe they'll be ready if I go to them in their comfortable space, in their environment, you know. So if I can do that and reach more people, then I'm going to do it. So.
And that's why I wanted you to meet Lisa, remember, months back, because of her automotive background. But as I said, she was on earlier. I don't know if she's still on. But regardless, you both need to meet because there's no bigger heart than Miss Lisa Copeland. She also goes to Celebration Church. So yeah, so that's going to happen when you guys meet. So so that is happening as we speak then about the camper and its restoration and being set up as a mobile unit. Wonderful, wonderful.
And we actually have a day. I don't know if you were going to say, but we, you know, God showed me that this is huge. This is going to go worldwide. So I founded a national We Are Not Broken Day. And he's like, nope, it's not national. National is just confined right here in America. So I literally submitted even more paperwork, and it is now an international We Are Not Broken Day, January 17th, which was the day it was formed, the day God spoke it into my life.
So now I was just about to speak about the We Are Not Broken Day, but so what was here on the square in Georgetown, was that international or was that national, or has it evolved since then?
Yeah, that was national. And
right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that was just national. We Are Not Broken Day. We did a huge announcement. I believe that, you know, everybody has a day. You know, you have National Prayer Day of Prayer, National Cancer Day. Hey, why can't these women have their own day? Why can't they celebrate the fact that they're not broken? You know, hidden scars, invisible scars, physical scars. A scar is a scar. A scar tells a story. Why can't they have their own day? So thankfully, God, you know, quickened my spirit to make that happen. And yeah, I was like, nope, not national. I'm bigger than national. God is bigger than national. And it's his vision, as I always say. So we went international.
And what is that day? Is that also the January?
Yeah, we were able to get the same day, international, January 17th, the day that it was, you know, spoken into existence.
You just said a key right there. Again, you visualized it, you verbalized it, you took action. And anyone can do what your dream is, what your goal is, what your hope is. Take that first step and bring that to life. And it have that clarity and put it together. That's why these stories are so important. That's why I'm doing this, because I want people to hear everyone's story. We are not special. We are just like anybody, but it's just taking those steps and actualizing what your dreams, goals, and desires are. But as you said, Nick, it's not just for you and your creativeness, but it is to make a difference.
Yeah. It has to be bigger than you.
In everyone's life.
Yeah.
I mean, internationally, rather, it's very exciting, very exciting. Just as I said, you're a unique leader on every level. So then this is happening. And so backtrack to your art school, your own being, and you're just an ooze of creativeness. And during this season, you started the Faith Seed Company.
I did.
Awesome. I mean, folks, you must go on faithseedcompany.com and see the prolific work that this woman does, and it just continues to pour out of you. So tell us a little bit about Faith Seed Company.
So I really wanted something that I could give monetarily myself. I ask people for donations all the time, and I need to be able to also give, I mean, I've given a lot monetarily to obviously establish it, but I also need to give a lot if I make money. So I wanted to be able to give back to We Are Not Broken, but also make a little bit of extra money, for me, really. And everything I did with We Are Not Broken was in faith. Everything I did was in faith. So what better way to do it than to really just explore that, and the mustard seed faith. I was reading that scripture and I was thinking, well, who's really ever seen a mustard seed? Really? I mean, sometimes we read scripture and we're like, oh yeah, and take it for granted. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've read that scripture hundreds of times. I've never, ever seen a mustard seed. I'll be right back. And I literally got in my Jeep and I went to HEB and I got myself a jar of mustard seeds. And I came back and I poured them in my hands and I'm like, oh, look at that. Oh, I bet that would be really cute in a little glass jar. And then my brain started and it was like, and then I was coming up with all of these beautiful, this is one of them, beautiful pieces of jewelry or gifts where the message of faith can still be portrayed and his word is still going out, but I can also be blessed by I can be blessed by it myself, and I can also bless the organization by it too. So that's really how it came about. And I wanted to do even more. So I decided that for every faith seed necklace that I sell, I was going to give a faith seed necklace to Radical Restoration Ministries, and they rescue women from the prison system, from prostitution, and they introduce them to Christ. So I'm like, I'm going to pour into that ministry. So, yeah. So that's what I'm being.
It just keeps pouring out of you. Just keeps pouring out of you. It's just amazing.
I just don't, enough. I just really don't. I don't think you can give enough because I
don't think so either.
No. So, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think that, and you're just in the precipice. You're just in the beginning of, as Pastor Joe said, a world changer. Meaning that you're just in that beginning place of it. And what's so joyful for me is to see how your husband is, just there with you. He's just your greatest cheerleader.
He really is my biggest supporter. I'm not going to say I couldn't do this without him. I'm going to tell you I would not want to do this without him.
Mm-hmm. Interesting statement. That could be a whole other show. Yeah. Yes, about relationships. Yes, very much so. But that also is about back to association. And I'm going to end with this, Nick, that I mentioned Sharon Lecter earlier with Outwitting the Devil, who she annotated, that was written by Napoleon Hill in the late 30s. And it wasn't published until the early like 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. And the Napoleon Hill Foundation approached Sharon, who was the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and many other books and programs. And she annotated the Outwitting the Devil. And if you haven't read it, it is for such a time as this.
Yeah.
But they have a book study, and it's the 4th week, but next week will be again on Wednesday at 2:00. But the reason I bring this up is she co-wrote a book with Greg Reed, and the title of that is 3 Feet from Gold. 3 Feet from Gold.
Yeah.
And just the overview story is that this gentleman went out, gold rush days, and went out to California and bought a land had some gold veins in it, and gave up. And someone bought it, and in 3 feet, digging further, he found that ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 feet from gold. She has in that what she calls the success formula that, over the years, I've done a lot of, reading and studying internally and spiritually, but reading a lot of Sharon's work has just kind of crystallized a lot of that work for me. And this success formula is one of those things. And the success formula is your passion plus talent times association times action plus faith equals success.
Yeah.
And you've touched on every single one of those, my dear. Every single one of those. But what would you say, and you on some level have shared this already, but what would you say your passion and your talent are?
My passion is to always glorify God in everything I do. My talent is whatever He wants me to do.
To be open. Wow.
Yeah.
To listen.
Yeah.
Wow. And so on the eve of Mother's Day, and so many mamas have just stepped up to the plate selflessly and with joy, and have homeschooled their children, ill-prepared, never have done it, and not sure if they were going to make it, i.e. financially, and so forth. So Nick and I are going to do tomorrow afternoon a drawing, and it's going to have a basket prepared by my dear buddies from Paris, Kentucky, the Twang Sisters, and it's just beautiful. And we're going to put some faith seed in it, some really fabulous things that people would enjoy, and a little novita, and we're going to have a Facebook Live not tomorrow, but Friday afternoon. So just basically pay attention to Facebook. Friday afternoon, probably around 5:00, we're going to do that drawing. So it'll be live. You put your name in it, and we'll just do a drawing for it. So we'll be able to share and honor and bless mamas.
Yeah.
And which you do all the time. Well, Miss Nick, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you with me and to share your heart with our friends. And there's Amanda Fuentes, who's one of your gals. She's with us, and Shanna Morris and Mary McMahon and Jack Beasley and Wendy Howell. Good to see you. She was on our Unique Leaders last week before the Girl Scouts of Central Texas, or Girl Scouts of America. And again, another girl project. And this girl is all things girls, Miss Wendy Howell. So thank you for coming on, Wendy. So Nick, I will see you tomorrow. Nick is going to do some headshots for me. And so I'm so excited about that. I'm going to be in the beautiful studio and have Nick do her magic. So I can't wait for that. But again, Nick, thank you. And we will put in the text all of your information, but faithseedcompany.com, as well as We Are Not Broken.
Yeah, Faith Co. It's just CO. Faith Seed.
Just Co. Okay, just Co. Okay, yeah. Faithseedco.com.
Yeah.
Good. Well, my producer, she'll get it right. So we'll have everything there. But really, friend, this beautiful lady on Facebook, you will not be sorry, not just from what she has shared today, which is absolutely, you will hear about different things that's going on, but also the humor and the love that she shares with her husband, Rick. Worth it. Worth it.
Thank
so
you.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. And everyone be blessed.
Bye.